everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Business Unboxed with your hosts Kelly and Corey. And as you can see from the title of this episode, we'll kind of be touching on if you want to start a business but you don't exactly know what you want to do, maybe some steps you can take to figure out what the right business is for you to start based on, like maybe your interests, hobbies, your skills, that kind of thing. And we're going to use some of Corey's expertise during this episode to help guide us through and maybe give us some questions you can ask yourselves if you're not sure, that might help you guide you to the right type of business. So to start off, obviously you guys know that I am in the process of starting a business and have been for a little bit. And so I'll kind of touch on, I guess, what I've been working through so far to start my business and what type of business I've been wanting to start and how I've come to that decision. So I guess for me, I do have that admin accounting background, and I've also really enjoyed the tech side of accounting. So, integrating different softwares together, the processes that accountants and admins need to take in order to do their jobs, and the flows of data, and then the reporting that you get out at the end of it. So what you put in, how it all transforms through the different systems and processes, and then looking at the reporting that you get out at the back end for your decision makers in your company in order to keep the company growing and succeeding. And so for me, not only is that kind of my job, it's also a passion of mine, and I also tend to be quite good at identifying processes that need improving, looking at systems and knowing if things can be done better.
Where do you think that comes from?
I'm not sure, to be honest.
We're both the same. Like, I'm big into process and system stuff as well, even though it's design based, although now kind of heading it into, I guess, more management stuff. Jub's not, is she? Probably not.
For reference, Jub is our younger sister.
Yeah, Jub's our little sister.
So Corey's the oldest, then me, and then Jub/Jessica is the youngest one. I don't know. I feel like she does like processes and she likes to do things in a certain way, but maybe not to the extent that me and you have. I mean, our mum was very organised, so she always had, Saturday mornings had a list of everything that needed to be done, and it had to be done in order, and there was a way to do things the right way. So maybe we just kind of picked up on that. I don't know.
Anyway, carry on.
But yes, so where was I? So for me, it was kind of, I wouldn't say obvious. It did still take a lot of steps and working through things and discussing with Corey, obviously being kind of somebody that I can go to for guidance, kind of talking through what exact services I might like to provide, what type of business I might want to create, and there's so many different little niches that you can go into. It's like, well, which one do you go to? But for me, because I did have skills in an area and experience in that, and also enjoy it, so it's kind of something that I actually like to do, it was something that was kind of a no-brainer to do, to look at starting a business where, I'm going to be helping other businesses work through their processes, their systems, making sure that their reporting is up to what it needs to be for them to get whatever out for the decision making they need. Obviously, that's a wide variety depending on what type of business you are, because a product-based business or an e-commerce is going to be a lot different reporting wise than a service-based business, because you have completely different thing. Like products, you might have 10, 20, 30, 100, 200 different products that you want to monitor, and you need to know all this different stuff for. Services is a wee bit different. So that's kind of where I landed on that. So I guess for a first step, and there is something called, what was it called, Corey? You got us to do it a couple of years ago now. It's a Japanese methodology.
Ikagai.
Yes. And it helps you figure out, I guess, like your life purpose or something, I think is what the goal is. And so during that process, and that's kind of where I guess it kind of helped me narrow things down, even though I kind of knew, I think in it, from memory, you have to put down the things that you do, the things that you enjoy, like work wise, what skills you've got, what you enjoy, and then I feel like there's another one, and you kind of come together, and it kind of helps you create like a one sentence odd purpose for yourself.
Yeah.
And so for me, obviously, I enjoy helping other people, and so helping people in the accounting admin process space seemed kind of logical. So if I guess you have some money to start a business, a starting point to that may be going and Googling a car guy and maybe going through that process to see what where your passions and passions, interests, skills, and wants and ways that you can make money kind of all intertwine. What else is there? From there, it's not as easy as, oh well, I have an interest in such and such an area and now I can just go and start a business. So a lot of people either have the money and not sure where they want to start, or they know where they want to start but then fail to actually do some research. So what I've been working through with Corey during this whole process of my brand and my business is actually doing some marketing research. So figuring out who else might be out there who's doing a similar thing to me, what my point of difference might be, and a few other things. So, Corey, can you talk us through, because you've done this with many clients, that
Mm-hmm.
second step after you kind of know what you want to do is what are the different steps in that market research kind of area?
So I'll just backtrack a wee bit. So, yeah, a lot of people jump into business, especially small business. I mean, it's different when you're talking about buying a business or, spending hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars on a business. That's a different thing. But we're talking about small businesses and starting a small one or a side hustle potentially where people start as well. A lot of people, I think they can just start one with little to no cost and just jump in, or build an e-commerce store, do it yourself, so you can sell something without actually any thought around anything other than wanting to.
Mm.
So most of the clients I work with, a lot of them have created a product themselves, and that product has been to fill a need that they haven't found, which is awesome. But I think one of the biggest things we do when I develop branding with clients is to understand their market. So before you think about selling anything, you need to try and think about what are you solving? What need are you solving for someone? Because that's what any sales comes down to, is solving a need somebody has. Um, and don't yeah, there's lots of things we could go into there, but so that's the first thing to think of is what's the need, what's the problem I'm actually solving for someone, and then you need to go and have a look at what other people in a similar doing. So your competitors, have a look at what they're doing, what they're saying, what they look like, where they are found online, on social media, and figure out your point of difference. Because if you've got five different companies or brands that are selling the same thing, that look the same, sound the same, feel the same, then why would someone buy something from you over there? So
Yeah.
there's lots of different ways you can be different. It doesn't mean you have to have a crazy weird ass design, although that's one way of being different. The way you talk to people, you could be a really friendly, casual tone. And I think, Kelly, that's working on with your brand is that in your space it's typically quite corporate and potentially skewed to more masculine people in the industry, and so
Mm.
far more approachable, uh, softer tone with your brand is a way that you're going to be a wee bit different. Um, so yeah, it's really just understanding the market that you're going into. How big is the market that you're going to go into? Is it quite niche? Is there room for other competitors, other brands? Who are you targeting? What problem are you solving? And a big thing for commerce and I guess service-based businesses is how you're going to make sales. How you're going to get people. Again, and this is probably, we'll cover this in another episode, But a lot of people think by having a website, you're suddenly going to get sales, and that is not the case almost ever. Especially for new websites, there's time for it to be indexed on Google, and unless you're doing some form of SEO or advertising, or you've got some lead generation to get people there, then people don't just show up. You're literally a needle in a haystack.
Yeah.
So you've got to find a way to get people to the website. So there's a big marketing piece that's being missed. So there's a whole lot of thinking and planning that you really should do before you get into business.
Yeah.
One mistake too is people often think that swapping a 9 to 5 job for having your own business is going to mean you've got all this free time and extra time, which isn't the case, right? At
Yeah.
least in anyone I've come across that loves the business that they're in and that they own, is it's a very different mindset and mentality going from being an employee to having your own business, because you basically becomes your baby. And so, like for me, and again, anyone that I've talked to that has their own business, you kind of think about it all the time. Like it's kind of constantly on your mind. There's stuff to do. You work on the weekends, you work late at nights, you work here and there. Because there's just, you're ticking over all these different things. I need to reply to this email. I need to follow up with this lead. I need to draft some text. I need to finish this project. And so, in my mind, you're not really giving up, or you're not really getting time back when you make that transition. But the freedom is it's hard to really explain. The freedom is amazing. You kind of have this sense of like, no one is in control of me. I do not have to be anywhere at a certain time. No one's in charge. I work when I want, where I want, how I want. And although you've still got some restrictions around that, because you still have to meet you still got to talk clients, and you've still got to find leads, and you've got to run a business. There's kind of this, I don't know. There's no pressure. You're not kind of in a box. It's kind of very freeing. Um,
And if you want to listen more about that whole side of business and it being more like a 24/7 thing, we actually recently did an episode on work-life balance, and we kind of discussed, the differences in work-life balance between being a business owner and being an employee in that. So if that is a
mm,
topic you want to listen a bit more about, then go and have a listen to that one after you finish listening to this one.
yeah. So basically, in a nutshell, if you're thinking about it, the first thing you need to do is really don't think about a quick way to make money, because 9 out of 10 times that's never going to work. You need to actually find something that you're passionate about, and find a real problem that you're solving for a customer, not an arbitrary one that you think you're solving.
And how do people find what people may need? So, how do you know that there's a gap in the market? Is it just doing Google? Is it reading surveys? Is it reaching out to small business groups on Facebook, or saying, hey, like, is there any interest in this area or whatever?
Uh, I think there's probably a few different ways. So, yeah, you can do research. Like, most people probably have some sort of interests, right? So whether that be sports, whether that be gaming, health, fitness,
Yeah.
reading, what gardening, whatever it might be, you might have some interest, and that might give you a starting point as to where you can start to look, and then just go and look at research. Go and do research. Sorry. So have a look at, maybe there's a range of products that you use that you don't like for some,
Mm-hmm.
or I think most successful businesses, I feel like, come from a place of filling a need that isn't there, or doing something better than somebody else. So I'll give
Mm-hmm.
a case study, and I can't remember exactly what the brand is, uh, but there's a brand uh, of toothpaste that has just relatively-ish been launched, right? That has flavored toothpaste. I think
Oh,
is it
yes.
Smile,
Yeah. Hello. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
High
Hi, Smile.
Smile.
Yeah, that's it.
Right, so in that space, right, we've had toothpaste for God knows how many years, right? Probably hundreds of,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just had, whatever mint, peppermint flavor,
Yeah.
boring, quite clinical design, right? And so there's a huge space there. Maybe people didn't think about that they wanted a watermelon flavored toothpaste. I don't know. But there's a huge gap there where you took this boring ass industry
Mm-hmm.
product and you just revolutionize it. You make it fun, you make
Mm-hmm.
it colorful, you make it taste yum. Like we put
Mm-hmm.
toothpaste up twice a day, if not more, right? So why not?
Mm-hmm.
And they are, as far as I'm aware, a booming business. So
Yeah.
it's just thinking about things like that. You can go into supermarkets, literally take an hour of your day, go into a supermarket, wander down the shelves, looking at the products, and if there's a range of products that sit on the shelf and there's only a couple of options, well, there's an opportunity. Make a second, make a third or a fourth option instead. If
Mm.
there's that have quite boring packaging, then there's an opportunity to make it fresh, make it different, make it appeal to a different audience. We're actually talking
Mm-hmm.
someone at the moment about revolutionizing, if I'll use that word, um, a product that is quite niche. Um, and again, like the toothpaste has been around for a long, long time, and they want to do something quite different with it. And when we were having our call with them, we were kind of like coming up with these cool ideas around the branding in the call. And so it's literally just comes from a space of like looking at something again, like just five see a need, fill a need, really, from the
Yeah.
old brand. Oh, the caption, it's not mine. Um,
Mm-hmm. Good
yeah,
movie.
you've just gotta be open minded. Don't have a closed vision around a certain type of product that you want to do or don't want to do. Just kind of find something that bugs you. Something I know. Here's another example. So Jason, my partner, has quickies, right? And I've had them as well. Quickies,
Mm.
I don't know, are a thing we here have in New Zealand and probably Australia that helps with acid reflux. So there's a chewable kind of lolly looking thing,
Yeah.
and the kind of the hard kind of how do you say it, like chalk kind of based
Mm.
option, the hard, I don't know what do you call, like the hard lolly one, um
Yeah.
they're wrapped quite tight, and so he always gets so frustrated unwrapping them. It's not friggin' quick to unwrap, and they're called quickies, right? Which is obviously two different meanings. But so
Mm.
it's like I could look into that product and go, okay, well, I could either repackage that and then pitch it back to them, or I can just go and make another product that's funky, that's cool, that's maybe because again that product's been around for a long, long time, and it's
Mm-hmm.
really a nice design. So you could revolutionize that product and make it something cool, make it funky, something that people don't feel maybe ashamed of buying if they feel ashamed. Because those types of products probably tend to be more for an older market. But I take them, and there's probably a lot of other people in their 30s that take them for various reasons. So you can make that product cool. It doesn't have to be this older type product. So yeah, it's just being open minded, looking at things from a different lens, looking at how something that you use in your daily life could be better.
So I guess so you've just covered off, like finding something that you have a passionate about or you see a need in the market. So that's part of that market research bit that we kind of talked about. And now I guess the next stage is you found something you're really passionate about. You like there's a gap in the market, or you feel like there's a way that you'd be able to actually market this product successfully. The next stage, I guess, would be looking at the costs. Obviously, starting a business is not necessarily the cheapest thing you can ever do. And depending on what business you want to start, some are going to be a lot more expensive than others. Obviously, if you're going to product e-commerce, most of the time you'll have to buy product upfront. Obviously, you've got like your drop shipping and other ones where I guess you can kind of get away with maybe having some different payment terms, or you might be able to kind of get away with not having to pay things or big bulk things up front. And then services are a lot less cost, but there's still definitely costs involved with starting up. So I guess at this point, you'd kind of want to do some research or reach out to somebody like Corey, for instance, who can kind of talk you through what those startup costs might look like. Corey does deal with a lot of e-commerce and product-based businesses like he talks about. So he does know a lot of those costs that you're going to see in your first few months of getting set up, and then probably in your first year of business as well. So Corey, did you want to maybe just briefly touch on a couple of those costs that people may not expect, but that they should probably factor into a budget to see if they can actually afford it or not?
Yeah, sure. So I guess one of the things you need to think about, I think we've covered this in another episode, is whether you want to start a company or whether you do sole trader.
Yes.
If you start a company, then there's companies registered office here in New Zealand, so you've got to pay about $50 plus GST or something to register a business. You also need to have a domain name, ideally. So you have a domain name for your website, and then again, ideally, you have that same domain name for your website, for your email address. So you've got domain names, which can, depending on how you go about purchasing them and what settings you have with them, can be $30 up to $100 or more a year. Now, you don't necessarily need to have a private domain or custom domain email address, but if you're wanting to look professional, and again, depending on what you're selling, I'd usually recommend it. So, if you go with something like a Google Office 365 account or a Google Microsoft Office, a Google Workspace account, you $10 to $20 a month subscription for that system and software. You, depending on where your skill set lies, there's usually some sort of branding element, packaging element, if I'm talking e-commerce, product-based business, and then website element. So, I understand that some people don't have the budget to spend thousands and thousands of dollars to get someone to design that for them. So you've got to weigh up the investment risk versus you doing it yourself. That's another conversation, but you need to, think about how you're going to go around getting your brand set up and getting any packaging or barcodes or legal stuff checked and done. You've then got your website. So that needs to be set up and connected. You probably need to have some sort of courier service connected. So there's not usually an upfront cost with that. But, there's another cost to think about. So you have website subscriptions. I'll just talk to Shopify here because that's the main platform we use. So Shopify, I think their standard fees are about $45 NZ a month, or about 20 or 30 US, I think. So, if you have a platform you want to sell online, and again, you need to have a think about how you get people to the shop to purchase it. Otherwise, that money can take a long time before anything happens there. And then you've got your stock. So again, depending on whether you're drop shipping or whether you have to pay the manufacturer to produce the stock for you, or whether you're making it yourself, you've then got a range of labels and packaging costs to go with the product. And again, that there's a huge variance there of whatever that could be. So, there's a whole bunch of costs to start off with. So if you went from not starting to starting something, in your first month of business, you could have spent, what do we say, 45, 20, couple of $100 NZ, I would say. And that's without any stock. That's just base subscriptions and, yeah, I guess the important thing to consider too is, and the biggest thing I find that people potentially miss, is how they're going to get customers.
Yeah.
So this might need to be a bigger episode, but essentially, you've got SEO, which is kind of Google search. You've got Google Ads, Meta Ads. So and then you've got obviously any print advertising. So signage, car signage, billboards, brochures, magazine ads. So you've got all your advertising avenues. They cost money, usually thousands of dollars. Uh, and then you've got networking. So if you're a service-based business, more often than not, they do more networking events. So think about what that might cost if you're in networking. You just have to have a think about how you're going to actually get people there, because they don't just turn up if you have a website. So, you've kind of got to have a budget or you need to either have the time to do lots of organic stuff and do networking, or you need to have some sort of budget to help launch the business. And that, it might only take 3 to 6 months of a big ad push to get some customers and get some repeat business, which is what you want to keep things going. But that's also a cost people overlook, I think, is this, oh, it's just marketing, but it can be make or break for some businesses if they don't get that right.
Exactly. So once you've gone through the stages and you've got to the point where you've got your costs, it then, I guess, is a decision of whether you've got the cash or you want to get a business loan. And we have discussed, I guess, some different funding options in our, I think, 5 steps of starting up a new business. Or a couple of episodes ago, we did one, and I think we talked a bit more about what are those funding options that you can pick. And then from there, I guess if you've got everything in line, it's then just starting the process. So, like we said, if you want to be a company, then you have to register. Well, you have to pick a name, you have to do all the branding and all that kind of stuff. Once you've done all of that, then you've got to register yourself as a company. Or if you don't want to be a company, you want to be a sole trader, you can still register in New Zealand at least to get an NZBN number, so like a New Zealand business number. And you've got to make some decisions around whether or not you think you're going to make a lot of money. And if you are, then you should probably register for GST as well. Because in New
Mm-hmm.
Zealand, if you think, not even if you're there, but if you think or planning
Mm-hmm.
on earning at least 60,000 in the next 12 months, then you should be registered for GST. So if you already plan on having up to 60,000 in income in the next 12 months when you start, you should probably register for GST. So it's something to think about. And then just to add on to the costs as well, not something you have to normally pay up front, but remember that if you are starting a business, you probably will need some sort of an accountant or admin support in some capacity, unless you are extremely knowledgeable in that area. And even if you
And
can do some admin, what's that?
insurance,
Especially in
maybe
the
more for service
service.
based than product based, but
Yeah. So
yeah.
there's easily a few more grand of each of those things as well, like in your professional like service insurance and all that kind of thing can be a couple of grand potentially, depending on what you're getting.
Mm-hmm.
And accountants' fees at the end of your first year can also be a couple of grand, depending on who you go to and what services you're getting from them. And that's not generally including them doing your admin, it's generally just your year end accounts. So if you do need to be GST registered and you don't know how to do that, that'll be an additional probably monthly cost for them to process that for you. So there is lots of little things to consider.
Mm.
So it's also good to just add some fat into a budget. So obviously when you're doing these costs, you want to look at, okay, what products am I getting in? You need to work out how much you're going to sell them for, which we'll work out and we'll discuss in a different episode, is working out how much to sell things for. We could potentially do something on pricing strategies. And then yes, like adding some fat into your budget numbers for expenses. Don't ever add an extra to your income. Make that conservative. You're a brand new business, so people
Mm-hmm.
have never heard of you. They need to build up the trust. They need to see your brand, and then they need to build up trust with seeing your brand to actually engage with the brand, and then engagement leads to them purchasing. And then if they like the product and they like the service, then they might come back and they'll be a repeat customer. So there's quite a step by step process to even getting the sale, let alone keeping people coming back.
Budget for $0 income for the first 3 months.
Yeah,
Harsh, maybe OTT, but if you budget for that, then hopefully after 3 months you should be in a position where you're starting to have some revenue coming in, if not before. Um, but I wouldn't bank on trying to have massive amounts of revenue in your first month or two.
mm,
A while to get things going sometimes.
exactly. Cool. And then, yeah, and then once I guess you're away, then I guess you can listen to our other episodes about how to maybe grow your business, how to diversify, or if you need to branch out and do different things, what's right for you. We have a bunch of other episodes if you want to go and scroll through those about a range of different business topics when you're in business. But I think that's kind of wrapped up us for this episode. So I guess to finish off, we'll just touch on the couple of main points, which was to figure out, I guess, a passion of yours, because you need to have an interest generally in what you want to go into business for. And so you can Google the name of, what is it again?
The car guy.
Car guy. Sorry, I keep forgetting it. Okay, my bad. So Google a car guy and maybe work through that process is a starting point. Look out for things where there might be a bit of a gap in the market that you could kind of take advantage of, and then work through that whole market research phase where Corey, stop laughing. Calm oneself. He's lost the plot.
Okay.
I'm going to know your system.
Maybe.
Okay, so then once you've gone through that entire kind of market research phase, you might reach out to somebody in Corey's position who's being extremely inconsiderate right now and laughing. And then once you've kind of gone through your market research, you've done your branding and figured out that there is a space in the market, everything's going to work out, you've got the passion for it, then do your budget, work out your costs, and then you can start the process of actually starting your business. So I guess that's a wrap up of the episode. We hope that you've learned something from this. Please feel free to reach out or comment either on YouTube or Spotify. Let us know if this was helpful, if there's any topics you'd like us to cover. If you've got any questions for us, then we're always willing to do like a Q&A episode if you guys would like that. And we'll leave this episode here. So yeah, thank you for joining us, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Bye.